Okay, somebody is saying 4 to 6 is fine, so we'll explore. So I have actually week after week. So 1 week I'll be working from home, 1 week I'll be in office. So during my work from home, I'll take maybe 4 to 6, or let's say 3:30 to 5:30. But when I have office, I'll take maybe 1 hour or 1.5 hour only every day. Okay. So we'll go little slowly, but my intention is to cover most of the problems in the class itself. So that is why otherwise I could finish the CRE in let's say 10-15 classes, but I'm taking more time so that your notebook should be sufficient for let's say 100% preparation of the class. So okay, let's check the timings maybe a little later. So I'll wait maybe another 1 minute, 2 minutes, because I see the number of participants today is only 89. So how about your placements this year? Like, is it going to be dull or good? So I work in an R&D organization. So maybe I'll explain 1 minute time. So about my experience. So I got passed out from masters from IIT Bombay. So in the year of let's say 2009. So after that, I worked a couple of years in a design company called Halder Topsoe. So which actually designs the hydrogen plants and ammonia plants. So my work there is so basically design of the equipment, design of the basically it is a commissioning company. So we start up the plants, something like that. Design of the equipments. Later on, from last 7 years, I am working in an organization which is GE. I think everybody knows General Electricals. So which is basically an R&D company. So my work is basically design of the reactors. So design of let's say fixed bed reactors, fluidized bed reactors, selection of the reactors, and then doing experiments in the lab, like catalytic experiments in the lab and kinetics and studies. So it is. So since I moved from an industry to an R&D company, it is very good so that you can put the industry knowledge into let's say the R&D. That is how I say, like in between I explain let's say some of the industrial examples. So let's say why fluidized bed and let's say why fixed bed. Like whatever one thing is like basically CRE and PDC are like my currently practicing in let's say in labs also, like PDC, and like when we develop a plant we need to develop the control strategies also. That is two are my let's say currently practicing. To some extent heat transfer also, and a material balance will be there always. So that is how let's say so basically one thing you should remember is whatever we study in let's say the textbooks is completely different when we let's say apply in the plant, but the core principle remains same. Fundamentally principles remain same, meaning that last week we did one experiments, let's say finding the kinetics of let's say toluene oxidation. So but the principles we apply, like my team applies, will be same. Like we find let's say toluene oxidation, finding out toluene concentration at different times, finding out let's say dCA by dt and plot this one. So that is how like basic fundamentals will be remaining same. So that is why CRE is important if you are joining in R&D companies. Let's say if you join Technip or let's say Saipem, or let's say maybe if you all the chemical engineering companies, you can bucket it to three groups. One is R&D companies, another is design companies, another is production companies. Production companies is IOCL, HPCL, Reliance, all this stuff. Suppose if you are working in a production company, then you will not get any knowledge of let's say how to design a distillation column. Like if you ask somebody who is operating a distillation, or somebody who is working in a hydro treater of a Reliance, he cannot design a distillation column. But one thing is important is, but he can control the distillation column. Let's say my purity of the diesel is not coming very good, then he know how to tune the distillation column. Let's say the temperatures of the top trays are going up, then he knows, let's say, how to increase the recycle. That he is very masters in, let's say, operating the plant. So that is one group of companies. Like if you take all these companies, Technip, Saipem, Technimont, or let's say, to some extent UOP, or let's say all these companies are, you call it as design companies, but the technical term that you will call it as EPC, engineering, procurement and construction, is the EPC companies, EL, all these companies. So what does these companies do is they do design of a distillation columns, design of equipments, design of, let's say, all the design of the plants. And this is the second group of companies. The first group of companies is called as, let's say, R&D companies. So if you take UOP, and let's say for every company will have an R&D, like Reliance has an R&D, IOCL has an R&D. So all the R&D groups, what does they do is they develop the technologies. Like suppose if you take hydrotreater, which is operating already in many of the plants. So hydrotreater is not developed today. No, somebody has put his brain. Let's say ammonia reaction. You take, let's say, Haber has invented the ammonia reaction, let's say, long years back. But invention of the reaction is different, and how do you take, let's say, this to a commercial scale is different. That is where, let's say, the design companies. So what does the R&D companies? What does these R&D companies do is, for a plant we will have multiple operations. Let's take simple example of, let's say, separation of A and B. I can do separation of A and B by distillation column. I can do separation of A and B by, let's say, simple gas absorption, or I can do separation of A and B, let's say, by density difference, or let's say something like that. So there are multiple unit operations. I can do adsorption. I can do something like this. Suppose if you take a simple example of, let's say, nitrogen benzene mixture. I have a nitrogen and benzene is 1.3% nitrogen. So what do you do there? Suppose if I want to separate this benzene from nitrogen, you can apply technically distillation column, but see the benzene fraction is extremely less, 1.3%. No, so distillation columns doesn't work. Distillation columns are good when you are operating in the range of, let's say, 10 to 15%, 50% at least. So if you go to minute fractions, distillations will become extremely, let's say, energy intensive. That is where you will see, let's say, absorption. Like you take one solvent and pass this picture, benzene will be absorbed in the solvent. That is one way of operating a separation of the columns. This is what this R&D companies does. This is a one example of, let's say, how does R&D is different. But once R&D is developed, once I have a tech, once R&D is developed, then the next part comes the design of the equipments. That is why you take the entire development into three phases: development, let's say, engineering, and operation of the plants. So that is what is, let's say, the three fields. Another field of importance for chemical engineering is, let's say, pharma companies like Reddy's. This is a different field itself, totally different field. But pharma is a small scale industry. Like the tons that you will, like if you see Reddy's Lab paracetamol production is maybe hardly a ton per month, or let's say per year, 1 ton of paracetamol. Whereas if you see diesel production of Reliance, 200 tons per day, or let's say 300 tons per day. So the massive production comes in, let's say, refinery and petrochemical. That is where the maximum engineering knowledge of chemical engineering knowledge is useful in refineries, petrochemicals. It's not like that pharma we can't use, but pharma is a small scale industry. You do not see continuous operations much. You will see small scale plants, or let's say batch reactors, more of this one, because the scale of operations is less. So but if you are working in a pharma company, then I think CRE is very important, because so every time you will develop this new chemistry. Fertilizers is something like refineries and petrochemicals only, similar to this one. Clear? So this is some of these ones. I'm getting some of the doubts. Like if you're working from home, how do you, let's say, do the lab work? So I have the technicians, they will do and they will report it to me. Okay, this is, I think we are done. So we'll start, let's say, I think I have enough participants, 94. So what we decided is we completed chapter 2. So we'll start, let's say, chapter 3. So what did we studied in chapter 1 and 2 is, let's recap. Summary of chapter 1 and 2. So what did we do in chapter 1 is, if I have a reaction, let's say simple A gives B, how to find, let's say, kinetics. How to find kinetics is what you have done in, let's say, chapter 1. So what did you do is chapter 2. Chapter 2 is, let's say, if I have a reaction, let's say A gives B, how to select a reactor, and how to design a reactor. But what we have developed is still now only A gives B now. So how to find out the kinetics? So just find out, let's say, order of the reaction and then K value. How do you find out K is? Simple Arrhenius law, K equal to K naught into e power minus E by RT. So what is activation energy? You should know from, let's say, you have the softwares to calculate activation energy like that. So you will calculate K equal to K naught into e power minus E by RT. So that is how you find out K. So then how do you find out order? Order will be find out by, let's say, multiple ways. If it is elementary reaction, you will find out N. So then if it is non-elementary reaction, then you will have a do experiments, and then from the experiments you will have multiple analysis, integral and differential. Let's say all this story will do find the kinetics. So how to select a reactor and how to design a reactor. If it is ABC, simple n less than 0, we'll select a CSTR. If n is greater than 0, we will select a PFR. How to design a reactor is, we have already performance equation. That means if the CSTR is there, performance equation is everywhere the concentration is in. But remember that in reality, you do not have any CSTR, you do not have any PFR. So in the PFR, the concentration on each plane is different. So imagine that what is CSTR. Suppose if you have fan in your room, if you put fan on the full speed, your room behave like a CSTR. But it is not a 100% CSTR. Because if you see the concentration in every corner, it will be slightly different because the fan is not sufficient to mix all the contents in the entire room. Even if you put 100 fans in your room, there will be always some concentration gradient across inside the room. Maybe the concentration gradient will be less. So let's take the example. If I have 5 fans in the room, if I put one fan in full speed, then maybe my room will be, let's say, 60% close to CSTR. If I put all the 5 fans in the room, then maybe it is 90% close to CST. But remember that you will never achieve a CSTR because CSTR is an ideal thing. Do you ever have an ideal gas? No. PV equal to nRT is an ideal gas. So what is an ideal gas? The particles should not have any interactions. That is possible only when the pressure, when the particles, the influence of the particles between the influence should be 0. That is only possible when the pressure is equal to, let's say, extremely less than when the particles are extremely, let's say, depart. So, but what do we take is PV equal to nRT is an ideal gas. Then we take PV equal to ZRT. What do we define? How do we define is Z is a non-ideality from ideal gas. Similarly, we define the extreme ends. One is extreme end is CSTR, another extreme end is PFR. You will never have a best reactor for negative reactions better than, let's say, CSTR. You will never have a best reactor for positive reactions than PFR. That is what is the ideal. So you cannot have a best reactor for PFR or, let's say, positive order reaction than PFR. That is how we have freezed the best reactors, ideal reactors for the positive and negative order reaction. Then what do we do in chapter 4? Non-ideal reactors. But in reality, we will not achieve the CSTR or PFR. No? So you will define, let's say, non-ideality. Then that is what is will define. That is what is chapter 1 and 2. But there is one chapter which is topic which is remaining, which is recycle reactor in the chapter 2. I intentionally left this topic because this topic I will discuss in chapter 4, because then you will miss the, let's say, what is the objective of recycle reactors? By tuning the recycle, you can get any non-ideality is the objective of CSTR. When I'm plotting the RTDs, I will explain the topic of, let's say, recycle reactor. Clear? Then what do we study in chapter 3? What is chapter 3 is series parallel reactions. Series parallel reactions is what is the. So why do we need to study this chapter is, suppose if the entire reactions are simple A gives B, then there is no need of this chapter. So, but reactions are not simple. So, suppose if you take a example, NH3 plus CO2 gives ammonia plus CO2 gives urea, and right at the same time it also gives ammonium bicarbonate. Let's say ethane gives ethylene plus H2. This ethylene further reacts and gives, let's say, benzene. Clear? So this is of the reaction type, let's say A gives B, A gives C. This is of the reaction type, let's say A gives B, B gives C. So that means this benzene further gives naphthalene. This naphthalene further gives anthracene. So like this, this is a chain of reactions. A gives B, B gives C, C gives D, D gives E. Like this. This is a keep of cycle chain of reactions like this. So life is not simple in, let's say, real industry. So these are some of the examples. Sometimes I'm here, there will be one interested product. Let's say if you're talking about ammonia and urea bicarbonate, let's say this is my interested product. I am interested in more in urea because it is $2,000 per ton. So whereas ammonium bicarbonate, there is no use. That means you will that means if the ammonia and CO2 reacts, let's say ammonium bicarbonate, you are not getting anything, no? So you are not getting any value. So here, ethylene is also useful, benzene is also useful, and naphthalene and let's say anthracene are not much useful. So somebody, let's say in Reliance, maybe it is more of interest to produce, let's say ethylene. Maybe in some IOCL, if it is interested to produce, let's say more of benzene. So what is the use of ethylene? Ethylene will be useful, let's say, to polyethylene. In India, we have more production, or in India, we have, let's say, more use of polyethylene. So we are interested, let's say, for more polyethylene. What is the use of benzene? Benzene will be used to produce, let's say, styrene. Styrene will be used ultimately, let's say, to polystyrene. The demand for polystyrene in India is less. So that is where Reliance is producing more of ethylene, let's say, than, let's say, benzene, like this. So sometimes, so you have a multiple reactions. So somebody is interested in B, somebody is interested, let's say I'm interested in B, here I'm interested in B, or maybe let's say C, something like this. So it is basically a chain of reactions. What you need to understand is chain of reactions, and you have a desired product, you have a desired product and undesired product. So it is a chain of reactions. Some of them are, let's say, desired products, and some of them are, let's say, undesired products. Clear? So that is how. Now, what is our question is next, how to design the reactor, or let's say how to basically select by design. Now we have a complex case. Now then let's take example. A gives B, A gives C. I am interested here, I am not interested here. A gives B and A gives C, and I am interested here, I am not interested here. So here, what is your objective is, the reactor should give max B and let's say minimum C. This is your objective. The reactor should be, and second thing is, it should be optimum also. Optimum is volume less also. It should be optimum also. The reactor should give maximum B and minimum C. And what is second option is, it should be optimum case. Clear? So this is the objective of chapter 3. So everybody understood, because this is important. What we are going to study in the chapter is more important. Just spend some time and understand the objective. Maybe this with the examples. So optimum means low volume reactor. So now let's take parallel reactions and then discuss parallel reactions. Let's take a case of A gives B and A gives C. A gives B and A gives C. Now we have, let's say here, the kinetics of this one is KCA power N1, K2CA power N2. So you have both kinetics getting from the first chapter, and I am interested more of B. I am not interested, let's say, more of C. So what is your objective is? What is your objective is? Max B and let's say minimum C. Clear? Now, how do I define is? I'll define called selectivity of B. How do you define selectivity of B is rate of B formation divided by rate of C formation. What is rate of B formation is K1 into Ca power N1, K2 into Ca power N2. So what is K1 by K2 into Ca power, let's say N1 minus N2. So now we need to maximize this selectivity of B. Suppose if you are maximizing the selectivity of B, then you are maximizing rate of B, then you are minimizing, let's say, rate of C. So that is how I translated our objective into a mathematical. Now our question is how to maximize this. How to maximize this. So what do you do to maximize this? So you have, let's say, two fractions. Let's split this into two. This is part 1 and this is part 2. So let's take first part. Ca power N1 minus N2. What is Ca? Concentration of A where? Inside the reactor or outside the reactor? Inside the reactor, no? Then do you want maximum concentration of A or minimum concentration of A to maximize this one? Do we need maximum Ca or minimum Ca to maximize this number? Or you can't say here now. Our objective is to maximize this particular number, Ca power N1 minus N2. To maximize this number, should you need, let's say, high Ca or low Ca? High Ca or low Ca? Depends upon N1 minus N2. You can't answer here. Depends on N1 minus N2. So what is meant by depends upon N1 minus N2 is, if N1 minus N2 is greater than 0, we need high Ca. That means you should go for PFR or CSTR to get maximum concentrations of A. PFR. So if N1 minus N2 is less than 0, we should go for low Ca. That means you should select a CSTR. So basically depends upon the concentration. If my N1 minus N2 is greater than 0, you should go for high concentrations. If N1 minus N2 is less than 0, you should go for, let's say, low concentrations. Low concentration is CSTR, high concentration means PFR. Got everybody? What is one? One is desired or undesired. Next time onwards, we don't do all these derivations. If undesired is greater than n undesired, then you should go for a PFR. If N desired is less than N undesired, you should go for a CSTR. Next time, see this interesting point is, suppose if I have a reaction, let's say A gives B, is of let's say third order. What is the reactor that you will select? PFR, no? N desired, order desired, order undesired. Simple example is if I have A gives B, N of third order, I will select a PFR. The moment I will come to know, let's say it has a parallel reaction of C where N is equal to 5, my reactor size will become CSTR. Because why CSTR here? Because your desired order is less than undesired. So PFR is good for B, but PFR is extremely good for C, no? So here in this case, if I select PFR, what you get is you will get max of C. But if you select a CSTR, you will get max B and minimum C. Here, minimum B. E, A here. So here. Did you get? So, but remember what we are targeting is minimization of undesired product. Complete elimination is not possible. Minimization of undesired product. But did you, this is what is, let's say, for Ca power N1 minus N2. Now what is next important is K1 by K2. How to maximize this one? Let's expand this one, K01 e power minus E by E1 by RT1, K02 by e power minus E2 by RT2. So even though it is A gives, let's say B, A gives C, you have two different activation energies. Why you are getting, let's say B and C is different is basically why parallel reactions happens. That is the first doubt that you should get. So if A gets this much amount of activation energy, will form, let's say B. If A gets this much amount of activation energy, maybe it will form C. Maybe vice versa. It is not always, let's say, C should be higher, or let's say B should be lower, or B can be higher or C can be lower. So you have some activation energy which is E1 where B forms. You have some activation energy where, let's say, E2, that is C forms. Now, so what you are doing in the reactor, you are leaving the molecules and energy inside the reactor. You don't have control over that, let's say, molecules to gain, let's say, only this much amount of energy and form only, let's say, B or only, let's say, C. That is the basic thing. So that is why what your reactor is nothing but a place where you are leaving the molecules and energy inside the place. Suppose reactor is design is nothing. So only thing is, suppose if your reaction is, let's say, simple, let's say 400 or let's say 100 degrees centigrade and toluene reaction, and then you take that toluene and just heat in your, let's say, small beaker also, it will have a reaction, no, to products. So giving that energy is important. So that is why you will always have some formation of undesired product. Now these two are the things where temperature doesn't depend because these two are simply, let's say, constants. Now we need to work out here. So what happens here is if we sort it out, this is E2 minus E1 divided by RT. This is not RT1, T2 because both are temperatures are same, because both are operating in the same reactor. So RT, temperature is same. Now my question is next thing, should I apply, let's say, I have two options. I'll apply, let's say, high temperature or let's say low temperature. Now my objective is you should get maximum of this one. To get maximum of this one, you should apply high temperature or low temperature. Depends upon the activation energy. So basically, if E2 minus, let's take E2 minus E1 is, now you'll have two cases. One is E2 minus E1 is greater than 0. Something like, let's say E2 minus E1 is equal to 100. Then what do you get? E power 100 by RT. Now should you apply high temperature or low temperature to get maximum? Now it should be low temperature, so that this number will be, if you apply low temperature, then E power 100 by RT will be, let's say, maximum, because T will be in the denominator. So if you apply this value is low, then 100 by RT is high, then E power high is maximum. So similarly, E2 minus E1 is less than 0. Let's say E2 minus E1 is minus 100, just for example. Then E power minus 100 by RT. Then should you apply low temperature or high temperature? Reverse. You should apply, let's say, high temperature, so that this fraction will be maximum. E power minus 100 by RT is maximum. Clear? So basically E2 minus E1 is greater than 0. You should go for low temperature. What is E1? Desired or undesired? What is E1? Desired or undesired? Desired. So if your desired is less, you are going for low temperature. If your desired is high, you are going for, let's say, high temperature. That makes, let's say, you don't need all these derivations also. It is more of common sense. My B is desired and it is a low activation energy. So you have, if you apply, suppose suddenly if you apply high temperature, all the molecules will try to gain maximum temperature, and then, or let's say, maximum amount of energy will try to convert into C. No, if you apply low temperature, that means molecules doesn't gain energy so fast. So molecule will gain minimum amount of energy, so that more of the molecules will convert into, let's say, B. So that is, if your desired activation energy is less than undesired, you should go for, let's say, low temperature. If your desired activation energy is greater than undesired, you should go for, let's say, high temperature. So these are the simple rules of low temperature and high temperature activation energies. So clear this one. So similarly, even for a series reactions, we don't need to do, let's say, series reactions. Now, series reactions, reactor selection. Suppose if you have A gives B gives C, let's say B is my desired product, C is, let's say, undesired product. Suppose if you imagine that you have a CSTR, what happens here? You have, let's say, A. Then this is, let's say, products. In CSTR, suppose here since you are mixing, there is a chance of, let's say, product which is formed B, which can be thrown back because of, let's say, back mixing. So some of the molecules may spend more time inside the reactor, will convert into, let's say, C. So basically, the residence time of molecules, so the residence time of molecules has no control here. Residence time of the molecule has no control here. Clear? Because some of the molecules, maybe after formation, let's take two cases. You have two A molecules. This A molecule is converted to B, but it is thrown back because of back mixing. So it is converted to C, so it will exit as C. So this A molecule, maybe I'll use different color. This A molecule will convert into B, will be exited as it is as a B. So you don't have any control over the residence time. Here in series reactions, residence time is important. Residence time is important because if you want B, you should stop at a particular time so that B will not be converted to C. That is possible in a PFR only. So in PFR, because all the molecules, plane of molecules will move as it is. So the residence time of all the molecule is same in the PFR. Suppose if I have 2A molecules, this 2A here, 2A here, 2A will become B here and B here. Maybe if you further elongate, then they will become C. If you spend, they will spend some more time. Clear? So the residence time is controlled over here. So what is the object point here is for intermediate maximization, for intermediate maximization, always select PFR. For intermediate maximization, always select PFR. Because intermediate maximization, your residence times are key. So here we are talking about a big continuous reactor, not batch reactors. Now for temperature, your remains discussions will remain same. Your activation energy is greater than undesired, or let's say low temperature. If your desired is greater than undesired, go for, let's say, high temperature. Even for series, because the logics remains same. Just read the entire theory again, so we'll start solving the problems. Just read the theory again, we'll solve the problems. So residence time is, so when we are talking about a series reactions, residence time is extremely important, meaning that if I'm targeting, let's say, B maximization, let's say A to B formation occurs in, let's say, 2 minutes, B to C require, let's say, 1 minute. Then if you hold A for, let's say, 3 minutes, it will convert into C. If you hold A for, let's say, 2 minutes, it will convert into B. Clear? So the residence time is, formation is extremely important. The residence time is extremely important. That residence time control is not possible in CSTR because some of the molecules will directly exit to, so the residence times are, suppose if you have two molecules A, this A converts to B, that A, let's say, so this A will be converted to B and this is thrown back here. So it will convert to C and then exit as C. This A will convert to B and will be exited as B only. So that residence time control is not there. So here in, let's say PFR, so both A molecules are entering on the same plane. So both A will convert into B. So that is how you can take out, let's say, B. But still there is some formation of C molecules because all A cannot convert into B at the same time, no, because of rate of reactions. So there will be some C formation here, but that will be minimum. So for any intermediate maximization, you should always select a PFR so that you have good control over intermediate maximization. So let's problems. So first problem, A gives B, A gives C. This is, let's say, 80 kilojoules per mole and 100 kilojoules per mole. This is, let's say, second order reaction. This is, let's say, third order reaction. For B, what is the selection? For C, what is the selection? If you want maximum B, what do you do? If you want maximum C, what do you do? So for B, it is low energy, so you need low temperature. So basically, B requires low temperature irrespective of reactor. C requires high temperature. So what is B is a second order reaction. C is a third order reaction. If I select PFR, you will get more of C. If I select CSTR, you will get more of B. So low temperature CSTR is B. High temperature PFR is C. Clear. So basically this is, B formation is low activation energy. So this is low temperature. C is high temperature. That is the first thing. Clear. So second thing is B is a low order reaction. C is a high order reaction. So if you select a high order reaction PFR, you will form more of C. You will select a CSTR, more of, let's say, B. So next one, next question. A gives B, B gives C, and A gives, let's say, D. This is a second order reaction. This is a fifth order reaction. This is a, or let's say, no need to write orders, just activation. The activation energy here is 100, this is 200, this is 50, or let's say 150. Or this is, let's say, take 250, this is 250. So what is the question is, desired product is B. So what is the temperature? When you have this kind of complicated reactions, reactor will be mostly PFR. So here it is a little complicated chemistry. If you try to see, this is a slightly complicated chemistry. So now if I have a PFR here, now you should form a strategy here. This is a complicated chemistry. Clear? Now, first part is when you target CS. Now, how do you maximize B? How do you maximize B is you write the steps. Step 1. First thing is maximum B from, let's say, A. Maximum B from A is your target. What is step 2? You should get minimum C from B. These are the two steps. First thing is maximum B from A. Second step is minimum C from B. This is the next step. So when A enters here, you should form maximum B. So A gives B and A gives C. This is 100. This is 200. So how to get maximum of this one is, this should be maximum. So this should be maximum, you start applying, let's say, low temperatures. You start applying, let's say, low temperatures. Clear? Now, now when you move on to the down, you should think about this reaction. A gives B, B gives C. Now this is 100, this is 250. Now B to C formation is high activation energy. So this is feasible at high temperature. So here this B is also feasible at low temperature only. Suppose here B is also feasible at low temperature only. A to B is favorable at low temperature because A to B is having low activation energy compared to B to C. So this low temperature will help to, this is D, no? So this low temperature will help this reaction compared to, this low temperature will help this reaction over this reaction and this reaction over this reaction. So basically what happens is throughout the reactor low temperature should be applied throughout the reactor, something like this, low temperature. So here when you have this kind of reactions, you should play a small strategy. That is, first you should think about this reaction. Later on you should think about this particular reaction. So suppose maybe once if everybody solves this one, then we'll go to next question. So low temperature is throughout the reactor. Suppose if I replace this 250 with, let's say, 75, then what is your answer? Suppose if I replace this 250 with, let's say, 75. So first one is same, no change, because this is 100. So this is replied by 75. Then what happens? This becomes, now if you continue this low temperature, then what happens is B to C is more favorable for low temperature than A to B. So all the B will be converted to low C. Then this is high temperature. So you start with the low temperature and go with a high temperature. This is what is the temperature profile for the second question. So first thing is B is still my desired product. Only thing is this is 75. So A gives B, A gives D. So that is A gives B is favorable at low temperature. A gives B and B gives C. This is 75. So this is favorable at high temperature. Clear? So we'll solve two more problems. Maybe we'll get more clarity now then. So, but just understand, I'm giving, let's say, some more time. So we'll understand. Right, next problem. A gives B, A gives C, C gives D. This is 100, this is 150, this is 250, this is 200. So write the temperature profiles for B, C and D. Take time and solve this question. So if desired is B, what is the answer? If desired is C, what is the answer? If desired is C, what is the answer? D you just hold. There is small logic for D. For B, let's start with, let's say, B. B means what you should think about B first. So B means you should think about A to B, A to C. So here you should get, let's say, max B. A gives B, A gives C, max B here. So this max B is basically low temperature. So what is max C is, this is 100, this is 150. So this is also low temperature. So throughout the reactor, basically B means throughout the reactor, because low temperature favors this reaction, doesn't favor this reaction. This doesn't favor this reaction. It doesn't favor this reaction also, B to D. Low temperature doesn't favor A to C as well as B to D, both. So what is C? A to B, A to C, and this is A to C, C to D. What is A to B is 100, this is 150. So this will be high temperature. Now A to C is 150, C to D is 250. Now if you keep on putting the high temperature, then all the C will be converted to D, no? That is why A to C is preferable at low temperature. So you start with high temperature and going with low temperature, something like this. This is what you call it as decreasing temperature profile. Decreasing temperature profile. For D, you have two paths. Should you go by, let's say, A gives C gives D or A gives B gives D? Which path should you go? Our path doesn't matter. Basically, it doesn't matter now whether I go by A gives B gives D, A gives C gives D. So you have a group of people here. Imagine that you have a group of people here. Your objective is to send them here. Your objective is to send them here. One is I can go by this path or I can go by this path. What is your objective? It doesn't matter whether they go by this path or whether they go by, let's say, it doesn't matter for me whether they go by this path or they go by this path. But what is matters to me is they have to reach fastly to this path. That means the rate of reaction should be higher. That means what you will do is you activate all the steps. So you just simply put high temperature. If you are putting high temperature, that means you are activating all the steps. You are activating A to B, you are activating B to D, you are activating A to C, you are activating C to D. You are activating all the steps with high temperature so that all of them will reach D. So high temperature means when you have multiple A, this is D, this is B, this is C. When you have multiple paths, all the paths leading to a single product, you just put high temperature so that you are activating this path, you are activating this path, you are activating this path, you are activating this path. So you are activating all the paths so that you are reaching D faster. Next problem. A gives R, R gives U, A gives T, T gives S. 79, 113, 126, 151, 0. Now, R, R S R T U S. What is the temperature profiles for all of them? This is an example problem, but complicated problem. So activation can be 0. That means it is not temperature dependent. This path is not temperature dependent. What is easiest one out of all this one? S, because all the multiple paths leading to same. S is simply high temperatures. What is R? R, if you target a reactor, A gives R, A gives T. This is 79, this is 113. So what is favorable here is low temperature. Then next later on, A gives R gives U. This is 79, this is 126. This is also low temperature. So all the R is simply low temperature. So what is T? What is T for T? A gives R, A gives T. So this is 79, this is 113. So you should start with high temperature. You start with, let's say, high temperature. Then later on, A gives T, T gives S. This is 113, this is 151. If I have high temperature, then T to S is more favorable than A to T. Then you should go to low temperature. So you start with high temperature and you should go to low temperature. This is what is decreasing temperature profile. Here it is low temperature profile. What is U? U is important here. U, if you target in the reactor, you should target A gives R, A gives T. First you should get maximum R is your target. So first you should target, let's say, maximum T. A gives R, A gives T. This is 79, this is 113. Maximum R. How do you get maximum UVs? Maximum UVs, it is a step process. What is step 1? Max R. What is step 2? Max U. What is step 3? Minimum S. After U formation, you should save U from forming C. So what is next step is A gives R gives U. So here you should, here what is maximum R is low temperature. Then this is 79, this is 126. So what is maximum U is, it is high temperature. Now R gives U, T, U gives S. But here interesting thing is this is 126, this is 0. U to S is 0 activation energy. That means it is not temperature dependent, no? So you don't need to worry about this step. Why you don't need to worry about this step? Because U to S is 0, so it is not temperature dependent. Whether you apply low temperature or high temperature, U to S, it doesn't matter. Clear? It doesn't matter to U to S because the rate of U to S formation is constant. Suppose if I have some number here, U to S is let's say 100. Then this is 126, this is 100. So R to U formation is high temperature. So that is how you should think about it. It is a 3-step process here. Here third step is not applicable or it is not there because U to S is 0. So it is increasing temperature profile. This is decreasing, this is low temperature, this is increasing, this is high temperature. So there is no chance of reduction of S from U. Temperature wise, you can't do anything. Because it is not temperature dependent, so it is 0 order reaction. So this is what for today's class. So maybe I think we have only 10 minutes. We cannot start new topic today. So this is first part of the series parallel reactions. We have another part which is quantitative analysis. Now what is the difference between qualitative and quantitative analysis is, so in the qualitative here we are showing it without the numbers. In quantitative analysis I will show you with numbers how is it, let's say PFR is better or CSTR is better. But remember one thing, for a single reactions the reactor selection is different and parallel reactions the reactor selection is different. When the moment when you have parallel reaction, your reactor selection will flip or will change. Clear? So we'll have 10 minutes for the doubts. So reversible reactions are different here. Here we are not talking about reversible reactions. When you have reversible reactions, you have to take, let's say, something like this. So if you have, let's say, A gives B, B gives A, then this activation energy may be 70, this activation energy may be 100. Both are different, no? So that is how you should take and then solve the problem. So what is another? So Microsoft OneNote I tried. I don't know, somehow my iPad is not supporting that one. So somebody is asking this doubt, let's say, A gives, in the previous question maybe, A gives here, if I remember correctly, A gives R is 79, A gives T is 113. Suppose if I want T, I need to select high temperature. High temperature because just imagine you have a, suppose imagine that you are A molecule. Suppose if you give, let's say, little amount of food. So let's if you give, let's say, little amount of food, you will take only little, no? But if you give, let's say, huge amount of food, then you will take immediately higher amount. Clear? So that is how A is like a molecules. If you put small, let's say low temperature, all the A molecules will try to gain low energy and form R molecules. So it is the activation level of A. That means it is the activation level of A which decides whether R to form or let's say T to form. So if you have, let's say, high energy, then all the A molecules will try to gain maximum amount of energy will convert into T. Clear? So what is the next doubts? No, it is not like that 1 hour class. So it is topic dependent. So today we took, let's say, roughly 1.5 hours. So if the topic is sufficient for, let's say, 2 hours, I'll take 2 hours only. But remember this online classes, I think 1 hour, 1.5 hour or 2 hours are maximum. We can't take, let's say, 4 hours or 5 hours. Somebody is asking to take 4 hours or 5 hours. So I can take 4 hours, no issue, but online classes efficiency is slightly less. So that is fine. So tomorrow's time I'll indicate maybe hopefully 4 to 6 or let's say 3:30 to 5:30. So how does different reactors maintain temperatures inside it? I'll explain an industrial case of, let's say, ethane to ethylene at the last of this chapter, so that you will come to know how do I maintain, let's say, different. Maybe I'll explain you one class. So the class is over, so it is open for doubts. So somebody is asking this doubt: if for the second order reaction, if the PFR volume is 33, CSTR volume is 44, practically PFR diameter is less 15 centimeter. For CSTR, can we have large diameter, which is sufficient construction wise? See, construction wise, it is different altogether, because it doesn't mean that volume is less, so the diameter is less. Maybe volume less means diameter can be same. So we need to see L by D ratios. There are many pictures comes into picture. When it comes to construction, you have the mechanical department who looks into the, let's say, aspects. What we tell them is we need 200 meter cube reactor. How do you get that 200 meter cube is the mechanical department. So you have to take some L by D ratios. What is the velocity, something like that. Yes. So I'll think over the timings tomorrow, because some of the people are asking for 3 to 5. Somebody is asking 3:30 to 4:30. Somebody is asking 4 to 6. Somebody is saying this 6 to 7 is itself fine. So I'll think, and then tomorrow morning we'll let you know. So another doubt is, so for analysis to take parallel reaction first, right? Yes. So will the rate of reaction change if we change the stoichiometric coefficients? Doesn't change basically. If it is an equilibrium, rate of reaction doesn't depend upon the stoichiometry. It is only representation. So EA is minimum is different. Here don't take it as minimum energy because these are two different reactions. So next doubt is, for some positive order we can use CSTR than PFR. Yes, if you have a parallel reaction which is higher positive order, let's say A gives P is second order, A gives T, C is fifth order, then A gives P, we can use CSTR. Business opportunities in chemical engineering is a little less because only the something like sales only you have. So next question is, what is the role of chemical engineering in design and what all we have to find or specify? So design is the complete, like design of a heat exchanger, design of a distillation column, design of pumps, design of compressors. Everything is the main is role is chemical engineering only, you know. In another doubt is, in industries they use series of CSTR instead of they can use a PF furnace. That is what I told. PFR sometimes the mixing, the ideal PFR getting is not possible. Let's say even though you maintain high velocities, you may not get sometimes PFR, or sometimes you have an existing CSTRs already bought for some other plant and lying. So that is how they use, let's say, series of CSTRs. It is like basically series of CSTR is much costlier than a single PFR, no? Because if you use multiple reactors in series, you have a piping cost in between, you have instrumentation cost. So that is how series of CSTRs is much costlier than a single PFR. So another doubt is, for R is the desired product, then why there is no need to consultation? If U to S, yes, third step. No, yes. If R is the desired product, then there is no need to take U to S. I am MTech. Yes, somebody is asking, are you MTech? So for R is the desired product, when there is, yes, I think this is clear. What computers are, if you have a time, then try to learn this, some of the softwares, Aspen or HiSys or let's say Proto, anything is fine. So basically all are the same. Only thing is the user interface is slightly different. But if you Aspen or HiSys are depends, some most of the refineries will use Proto more or HiSys. So Aspen is also very good software. So if you have time, try to learn the software Aspen so that it will be useful for your placements later on. Yes, in design using programs, something like MATLAB is basic softwares. MATLAB is if you want to like a Aspen is if you want to design a distillation column, you don't need to write all the design equations if you have Aspen. Just take out distillation column black, put all the feed, it solves for you. Suppose what is MATLAB is, you have to write code for the, let's say, the MATLAB using this one. So if your intention is to pursue MTech, then learn this software, something like MATLAB, C, Fortran, Python, all these things. So like nowadays, the data, I think data science field is growing very good. So maybe big data, mission data analysis, or let's say data science. So if you can have some time, then if maybe this is part of your BTech courses also. For studying MTech, I think India is also India. Somebody is asking, would you recommend studying in India or Western countries for MTech? So doing MS, like we can't say which one is better. Like doing MS in US versus MTech in let's say IITs. So it's like this. Suppose if you get a very good GRE score, something like 420 plus, or I don't know, maybe even very good scores. If you get, let's say, a master's in Purdue University, master's in, let's say, some very good state universities, A plus universities, then I think MS in US is better, but maybe A plus universities or A double plus universities. But don't go for, let's say, with a very, let's say, not very good universities, then you go there, and then rather than that one, BTech, MTech in IITs is much better. So you have very good opportunities for going, let's say, this one. So another one, somebody is asking, IISc Bangalore versus IIT Bombay. So I think IIT Bombay is good for placements. IISc Bangalore is good for, let's say, research. So when I am studying, I got both. So I decided to pursue IIT Bombay because of the placements. IISc Bangalore is very fundamental university. Basically, IISc is very little tough than other universities. That is how. Another somebody is asking, can we make a project on programs on MATLAB, Simulink, like solving real-time problems? Yes, it is helpful in the interview if you are, let's say, going for an R&D company. Something like, let's say, in EOP R&D field, if you are going, it's like MATLAB and all useful. Or if you are going for MTech, is also useful. So that is how. My rank was 40 when 2009. Somebody is asking, what is your gate rank? So another thing is, what is the minimum marks is required for GATE and PSU? I think I'll take another session for this one because it is important question. I think generally I take this session as a first class, but here online I don't know. So sometime you remember, maybe you just ping me one more time this question. So generally for PSU you should get a rank of below 100. That is the thumb rule. PSU selection generally based on the GATE rank. So that is how. MATLAB can be used as PDC tuning, or MATLAB or C, all these things we can use. At that time, we do not have PSUs, and I am not interested at that time in PSUs. So like somebody is asking, why didn't you only ask technical questions? No,